Disney video games have been going on for a long time now, and it goes back even back to the NES days. There were several good NES games like DuckTales, the Mickey Mouse games, and they even went on to the Genesis and Super Nintendo. Stuff like Goof Troop and Aladdin were great titles. Well, most of those games were developed by Capcom, which I think we all know who Capcom is. Now, they didn't really make any more Disney games kind of after that era. Once the 5th gen started, they kind of handed it off to other developers to take care of those type of games. Hercules is a great example of what I'm talking about. It was developed by Eurocom, and they're the same guys who made 40 Winks, and I did a review on that recently, so if you want to know anything about that, well, go check it out. Anyways, is this game at all worth your time to check out and play? Well, sit back. I'm here today to talk about Hercules for the PlayStation 1.
Hercules! Hercules!
Hercules came out in 1997 for the PS1. It was developed, as mentioned before, by Eurocom and published by Virgin Interactive. As for the plot of this game, it really follows the source material very well. It's just like the movie, but for anyone who's not seen the movie and doesn't know, Hercules needs to perform a rite of passage on Earth to prove himself worthy of living with the gods on Mount Olympus. With the help of his friend, sidekick named Phil, which is played by Danny DeVito, Hercules must learn how to use his strength to defeat a series of evil creatures, and, of course, stop Hades at the end because Meg gets captured. Like I said, it might be better to watch the movie for the plot, but you don't really need to play the game, so. As you expected, this game is a 2.5D platformer with a variety of stages that you do other things too, but the controls are incredibly basic. The D-pad moves you, square is your sword attack, X is to jump, circles to punch, triangles to power punch. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I never used the punching on circle. Never did, never thought it was useful, but yeah, that's literally all the controls in this game. Pretty easy. There are some mild functions you can do in this game. Matter of fact, you can do a mid-air ground slam. If you jump and use the D-pad down, you will create a huge earth-shaking MAGS, as they call it, mid-air ground slam. They even have an acronym for that. That's hilarious. You can also swing on poles, which is Jak and Daxter style, but it's very self-explanatory, and there are only in a few levels in the game. You can pick up rocks too, because you're Hercules, of course, and you can use them and throw them at enemies. One cool thing about this game too that I really like is you can grab ledges. I love that in games like this because really grabbing a ledge can honestly make a huge difference. So I always appreciate things like that. There are pickups that you get throughout the game. You actually get small and large coins, silver and gold coins, and what these do, they instead of giving you a life, at the end of the level, they count as points to go towards getting extra lives. Then you get Hercules bottles, and these restore your health, and every time you get Hercules bottles, Hercules has to go,
Hercules! 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 Hercules!
And he does that every single time, so you better get used to it, because it does get quite annoying after a while. They pull a Donkey Kong Country here, and you get the letters Hercules, and you collect all 8 of those, you get an extra continue at the end of the level. This is actually kind of hard to do, I'll be honest. I never completed it because there were just 8 letters is a lot, so I don't know. Didn't care for that. Hercules vases, if you find these will grant you an extra life. There's also another kind of vase you can find that have like little symbols on them, and those are for the passwords that you use if you want to continue your progress. In the running stages, you get the Hermes sandals. These make you run into anything and you're invincible for like 2 seconds. It doesn't last long at all. Also, throughout the level, not a pickup, but you'll run into Hermes, the blue guy, and that's your checkpoint. So once you reach him, if you die, you'll go back to that spot. There are indeed power-ups in this game you'll come across. Whenever you get some power-ups, use L1 or R1 to cycle through at the top right corner to that item, and one of the items here is Helmet Invincibility. This basically just gives you temporary invincibility for a little bit until the meter runs out. You get the Sonic Sword. It affects enemy targets at close range with a circular Sonic Blast. Then you can get a Lightning Sword. I thought this was the best one. Shoots a big lightning bolt out, and you can shoot it in like an arc. Really cool. And then the Fireball Sword. It's just a worse lightning sword. It just shoots fireballs out and it seeks the enemy. There's a total of around 11 levels in this whole game, so it's a pretty short playthrough, but the cool thing is there is variety in the levels. You actually can go in the foreground and background of the 2.5D platforming levels. Then you have the running levels, which is kind of cool. It's from a third-person perspective. It's a little stiff on turning left or right, but overall, it's not too bad to get through. Then you have that one level you fly on Pegasus, and that was the one with the lightning bolt and the flames I was showing you, and that one can be kind of fun too. The graphics for this game, in my personal opinion, they nailed it. It's very, very cool, like with the animation and stuff. The 3D textures, they don't really bother me too much. I know they're, it's old because it's PS1, but it still looks pretty cool. It blends together 2.5 really well. The boss fights in this game can be kind of fun. I liked the Hydra boss because the Hydra, it's like the movie. You swing its head and it grows more, and you just have to keep on slashing at it. And then also, the Medusa was a pretty interesting fight. And I thought the final boss, Hades, was honestly one of the biggest pushovers in gaming history. This boss is the easiest boss fight in the game, because you just have to keep swinging your sword at him, and he'll drop health a lot, and it's no problem, seriously. But I like the boss fights, they're pretty cool. This game is for sure very easy. You can actually choose beginner, medium, or Herculean, which is just hard. You don't play beginner because you actually don't get to play the full game, but the other two, not too bad. I think the running stages might be the hardest part of the game, especially the last level, but not too bad of difficulty, and you can adjust your lives too to get to either 3 or 4 lives. My biggest complaint with this entire game is definitely the password system and saving. So how it works is, in order to get a password, as I mentioned before, those password vases, well, they're very hard to come by and they're kind of random sometimes. You have to really explore to get those. But even if you do that, when you get to the password screen, you have this stupid, tedious thing you do with like spinning the pots to get the right symbols. It can be very tedious and time consuming to do this. I don't understand why it was so freaking hard to make this like a good password system. There are several games prior to this that executed it just fine. Not too sure why they did it this way. I also think that your sword is a little delayed when you use it. If you try swinging, it's just, I don't know, it just feels off. Whenever you swing at an enemy or an object or something, it feels like you're just delayed because the enemy can easily attack you in between the times you're like, using your weapon and trying to use it more. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I definitely noticed that. Hercules for the PS1 is definitely, I think, worth a look. If you're interested in it, you'll know from the first level if you'll like it or not. It's definitely got all the things there to make a good side-scroller, but it doesn't really excel like games like Klonoa and Tomba. I think those games are much better, but it's not a bad game either. So, if you like Disney platform kind of games, I definitely would check this one out and see if you like it. Hercules is only on the PS1, but it's also on the Game Boy. So this version here, though, was only for Windows and PS1, and it still remains that way. It's never been re-released or anything. If you do want to own this game physically, this game goes for roughly $50 complete in box, around that, range. And, it's not really worth it to me for that. But, of course, there are other means to play it if you really want to. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you really enjoyed this content, be sure to give it a like. If you got something to say, leave a comment down below. And of course, if you want to see more content like this in the future, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.